This is Press Play on KCRW. I'm Madeleine Brand. When it comes to arts funding, there's never enough money. But a recent audit by LA's city controller reveals that $10 million for public art has been sitting in an account unused for years. And that's almost as much money as the entire budget of LA's Cultural Affairs Department. So where did all that money come from and why hasn't it been spent? LA City Controller Ron Galperin is here now to solve that mystery for us. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
All right. Well, tell us the origins of this money. Where does it come from?
Well, it is part of the 1% for Art program that the city has. And that 1% for Art program has a couple of different components. But the one that we were most dealing with in the audit that we just recently completed is the one whereby certain monies are paid in by developers as part of a project that they do. And then that money is supposed to get spent on public art. But what has happened is that money got collected year after year after year, and the city didn't spend it. And that's a problem.
And that's a problem. Why didn't the city spend it?
Well, there are a variety of reasons that we lay out in our audit, although one of the largest ones was that there had been an interpretation of the law previously by a previous city attorney's office, which said that it had to be spent within one block of that project. So let's say you have a warehouse or you have some other kind of project that is built somewhere and there's nowhere to spend it within one block or no piece of art that you can acquire with that exact amount of money, then it sits in the account.
So that was Rocky Delgadillo saying that, putting that one block restriction on the money. Why did he do that?
Well, I can't speak to why it was done at the time. Look, every city attorney's office seeks to be as protective and as careful as possible, but the result was that the money was very difficult to spend.
And what are the other reasons?
Well, there's, I think, a real issue in terms of how the money was accounted for over time. The accounting system really didn't properly allocate interest, for example, that has grown, and what interest was attributable to which kind of projects. There's also questions about calculations and about the increase in CPI that was supposed to have been taken into account, which didn't happen. There are a variety of problems that we identify and a variety of different recommendations that we make to fix them, although the largest one in this case really does come down to the fact that the Cultural Affairs Department either allowed its hands to be tied or felt that its hands were tied in terms of how the money gets spent.
And you say in your audit that no other California city reviewed by your auditors, has such a strict policy as this one block restriction.
That is correct.
And are you blaming the Department of Cultural Affairs in this case for not figuring out how to spend the money?
Well, as you probably know, I became a city controller about 10 months ago, so I wasn't around when this occurred. But what I wanted to concentrate on was how to fix the problem. I'm sure there's plenty of blame to go around, but the real issue is how do we fix it, and how do we keep the promises that we made to the community? How do we keep the promises we made to the developers who paid this money with a reasonable expectation that it's going to be spent?
So what are some of the ideas for fixing it?
Well, basically by seeing a revision of the guidelines in terms of the actual number of blocks or the area where that money can be spent, that will be very helpful. And one of the things that I really want to express my appreciation for is to the current city attorney, who he and his office have been working with us to make sure that the guidelines will get redone in a way that allows the money to be spent. Now, having said this, by the way, that doesn't just mean that because you have the money, you go spend it. Rather, it has to be done as part of a process, carefully, thoughtfully, get the most return for your money, not just go out and spend it because you've got it. But you can't just let it sit there year after year either.
So what does this mean, public art? What would this encompass?
This can encompass lots of things, and there's been a lot of great public art that was created over the years relating to commercial and other development projects. And it can be sculpture, it can be painting, it can be something that is in the sidewalk or in the walls of a building, it can be a fountain. There's a whole variety of ways, and this is what really enriches our landscape, makes our communities more interesting to walk in and to drive through and to enjoy.
Could it also be things like dance performances?
It can potentially be things like dance performances as well. There have been some questions about just how you can or can't spend it for performances, but that's something that will be clarified as part of a new city attorney opinion.
And so who would choose the projects? Would that be the Department of Cultural Affairs?
Department of Cultural Affairs, along with a panel that looks at it. And it's also a great opportunity to really encourage local artists and to really find a way to give business to local artists, to local craftspersons, and to really, again, enrich our cultural landscape.
But I understand there's also a provision that the developers themselves could install the public art.
That is correct. There are three components, essentially, to the 1% for Art program. One of the components is what's known as the developer paid in, which is the one that we've just been talking about in terms of the money that gets paid into the account. The other is what's known as developer led, and there are larger developments, particularly where the developer chose to do that as part of their development, and that's monitored by the City of Los Angeles, and it's supposed to be completed.
So when you began this audit last year and you began looking into this, did you expect to find a big trough of money sitting there unused?
Well, we try not to set out with too many expectations when you begin an audit, because that's the whole point, is to really kind of uncover what the facts are. But this is actually part of the larger picture of what we're looking at, because we talk a lot about the general fund in the city of L.A., but there are 974 special funds. This happens to be just one of those 974. And last week, simultaneously, we also issued the most comprehensive accounting ever of those 974 accounts, with their balances, with their assets, with how they've been spending their money. And it opens the door for us to start going one by one into some of the ones that we think have the most potential and the greatest risk.
Okay, so this $10 million, let's say it's freed up, and will there be just this boon in public art? And do you expect our city to be more beautiful or more interesting, at least?
I should hope so. Look, there's a lot of need for art and for cultural development throughout the city. How far $10 million goes? Well, that's up to those who decide what kind of art is going to be put in. But it's a good start.
All right. Los Angeles City Controller Ron Galperin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.